Good evening. This is the 19th of September, and I'm Paul Glumaz with Lyndon LaRouche and LaRouche Political Action Committee, and this is being brought to you by General Welfare Presents. Now, tonight or today we were witness to a bipolar presentation by the President of the United States. I don't mean that in a clinical sense. I mean it was contradictory. You know, he talked about the sovereignty of all nations being respected, and then he went ahead and disrespected the sovereignty of all nations in his way he attacked North Korea, Iran, Syria, and Venezuela. So, but at the same time, there's all these back channel discussions going on with North Korea, with China, with Russia, and it's totally contradictory. The bellicose statements that the president made are the theatrical, in your face, we're ready to, do whatever mentality, and going after these countries, especially Iran, and demonizing these countries at the United Nations. Yet at the same time, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that is discussing economic possibilities for the United States. Ambassador Pickering has been meeting with the North Korean foreign minister in back channel discussions. Dennis Blair, the former the 1 year head of the Defense and National Intelligence Agency, is saying that Kim Jong-un is not insane. They're not going to go to war, and that through economic development you can start to resolve the situation. So you're getting a very split reading on these situations. Now, what I'm going to say is that I think that Trump is reflecting the intense problems located in the neocon establishment, which still exists, and also the situation in the population. But what I think is very revealing in understanding all of this is the 2 hours, roughly 2 hours, interview with Charlie Rose by Steve Bannon, and this interview was very revealing of a lot of what this was all about, what the issues are with the Trump administration. So I'm going to go through this aspects of that interview and my interpretation of them, and I'm going to digress off those aspects to other things. Now, what Bannon revealed, first and foremost, in the Make America Great agenda, is that Trump must, above all, deliver economic benefit to the part of the population which has been suffering from the post-industrial society, and he was very clear on that. The information age and the lack of industry, and so forth. And the culprit in all of this, of course, is China. China stole our technology, and they're out. We produce raw materials now, and they produce the high valued finished goods, and this is not fair. And so China is one of the culprits, but the other culprit is the elite, the financial elite, the techie people who control, the elite, who benefited from all of the financial profits made, and so forth. So you have, and these these elites allowed China to emerge as the dominant player in the world, and that Trump is going to change that, or has to change that, and secondarily, and also Trump has to deliver economic benefits to the population, and supposedly that's starting to happen. Jobs are coming back, and all of that. But what Bannon is basically saying is that if Trump has to deliver, he has no other option, and that he has to drive things in that direction. And the existing system that he's in, the existing financial system that he's in, that we are in, it will not allow for that kind of delivery to occur. There might be some marginal improvement, this company coming here, this company coming back to here, this doing this and that, but the financial system that we're under will not allow for the kind of very massive infrastructure and development that is required. It will not allow. We saw what the hurricanes did. We're seeing the dilapidation of our infrastructure. So the current system won't allow that. So if Trump is really going to deliver, and he has to deliver, there is no question about that, he's going to have to dump the system that we're in. So this brings up another element of what Bannon brought up, which is the fact that the draining of the swamp is not something that can occur in a short period of time, but rather Trump, in order to have stability, temporary stability, has to make deals with the existing establishment. And so this explains why certain people that would not necessarily be in agreement with Trump have been brought into the government, and Trump's trying to trying to deal with the situation as he's moving to try to consolidate. So what Bannon was basically saying, that Trump will go in whatever direction is necessary to go, but that direction is going to be has to be to fulfill this mandate, and whatever temporary alliances are made, people that are brought in to create a functional government, that Trump has the last word, and that the process of draining the swamp, or what they call draining the swamp, will take a while. Now, and so in this context, he mentioned Tillerson, he mentioned McMaster, and so forth. So what Steve Bannon is saying is that Trump is not loyal to the establishment. He's loyal. And he cannot be loyal to the establishment. He has to be loyal to the economic delivery that has to be made to the population in order for him to fulfill the mandate that got him elected. And Bannon was very strident about that. Now we come to the question of how Trump got elected. And Bannon said, we used populism to elect the president. And he referenced the populism of Andrew Jackson. Now, Andrew Jackson, in my view, was one of the worst presidents of the United States. He did a lot of destruction. But he mobilized the backwoods people, the people that had no say in government, did not have the education, were marginalized in his day, and he created a populist movement and created a party out of that, and he became the president. And when he became president, because the woman he was with, had not divorced her husband. This was a huge scandal, and Andrew Jackson was a pariah, and he was rough and tumble. He didn't have manners, and yet, he was president for 2 terms because he was able to mobilize the underclass, the less educated, the people who in the backwoods and what have you. So this was the model of the model for an aspect of the Trump campaign. The second part of this that Steve Bannon raised was economic nationalism, and the idea is, tariffs, and he referenced Hamilton in this, but he's really referencing Henry Clay and what Trump had earlier called the American system. But this is not LaRouche's economics. This is not the economics of Alexander Hamilton. This is not the economics of Abraham Lincoln or FDR. It's economic nationalism, but it's not the same. It's not to say. So in this regard, Steve Bannon lumped Polk in with Lincoln. Teddy Roosevelt linked to Franklin Roosevelt. These are two different animals, and nowhere in any of the things that Bannon said is there a conception of a British Empire, that we're operating within the context at that time in the context of a British Empire. Nonetheless, these were the tools by which Trump got elected around the three basic, this triad of one, economic nationalism, two, immigration, the wall, and three, we're going to end this endless costly wars that the United States is not to be the policeman of the world. And these are the three things that got Trump elected: dealing with the immigration issue, dealing with the economic issue, dealing with the war situation. Okay, so those are the three things. But none of what Trump is committed to represent in reality can be carried out under the existing situation. So this is a very important crisis for the U.S. and for the U.S. government. You do have a president who actually has an intention to do something that is for the American people, but he has no way of doing it under the existing circumstances. And if he wants to do those things, if he intends to do those things, and there's no doubt that he does have that intention, then he's going to have to change. He's going to have to change the orientation. Now, on the question of China, the truth of the matter is that China's One Belt, One Road massive expansion that's going on is actually helping stabilize the world economy, because it is using the international dollar in a productive way, and this is giving value to some degree is giving value to the international dollar. If the United States were to have a trade war with China, that would end the system right there, because the system itself is very close to collapse anyhow. Yes, the stock market is going up. Yes, all these things, but these are all artificial. These are being pumped up by artificial means. But the situation is incredibly horrific, on the edge of a total blowout of the system, because the interest rates are very low. And if you raise the interest rates just a small amount, you'll blow out the whole system. So this bailouts, continuous bailouts have been going on, and you can't keep doing it that way. There is no credit for development in the United States. There's nothing but bailing out the banks, or creating consumer credit, or to some consumer credit, or credit to keep the debt, the student debt, the auto debt, the home, the real estate debt. All of that has to be propped up, or else the whole system blows. So there is no way for any fulfillment of Trump's intention. So there's going to have to be a change, and that change has to come. Now, the problem with the American people is that they've never had a dialogue about any of this. And Steve Bannon's interview is like the first time that you have a real discussion about the world that is not, communism versus capitalism, or socialism versus free market enterprise, or some you know idiotic uh, 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 categorical view of things. But rather, it's the first time you actually had some discussion of how they won the election, and you can see this reflected, this crisis reflected in the uh, uh, contradictory manner of Trump's presentation today, his speech. The bellicose part, was that for show? Was that a cover for the back channel negotiations, or is that really what Trump is all about? Uh, I suspect it's a cover for all the back channels. It's to placate the neocons. It's to placate all these people in the institutions and the establishment that he has to rely on to continue to govern. Uh, yet yet it's not really where he's going. Uh, in a sense, that's what Bannon was intimating in the interview. But something else has happened in the interview, which was that Bannon said it's the Republican Party leadership in the Congress which is the driving force for the removal of Trump. And now you have Trump having a dialogue with the Democrats. That this is very important. Opening the door, which is the first step to opening the door to any possible move in the direction of LaRouche's four laws, is to have a line of communication between Democrats and Trump, because it's within the Democratic layers that you have the most support for things like Glass-Steagall. So this is now opening up. The Democrats are now saying, don't, we're going to drop this whole anti-Trump thing. But so now what's happening is the anti-Trump thing is now, and the Republicans are being accused of being the ones who are actually preventing, are allowing the committees that they control to be used against Trump in the hands of some of the Democratic members of the committees. So now you come to the coup against Trump, which is now being intensified through Robert Mueller, the special counsel. And there's articles now appearing, like in the New York Times, about the raid in the middle of the night on Paul Manafort, and the brutal search of his wife, and all this sort of thing that's going on. The FBI is now moving to terrorize all the people around Trump in these investigations, and they are breaking the law. And they're also it's also come out that not only was Paul Manafort under surveillance, but Trump was also probably under surveillance as well, under the FISA. So the FBI is now launching its wave, its strangulation and wave of terror against to move in on Trump, because you don't have the political support anymore between the Democrats and the Republicans to get rid of Trump. So they're moving with this. Now, in the middle of all this, the Foreign Policy magazine, which is founded by Samuel Huntington of the Clash of Civilizations, had an article attacking LaRouche, saying that our German organization under Helga was campaigning for with getting Germany to participate in the Eurasian land bridge, that the economy of Europe needs to work with China, economy of Germany needs to work with China, and then they attack LaRouche as a cult leader, as a whack job, and that LaRouche is now making a big play with China, and that the Chinese don't really understand who LaRouche is because they don't understand the West, and so forth and so on. And this is an all-out assault on LaRouche, and assault on the relationship that the Chinese have with the policies that LaRouche has been promoting that they have adopted. They're adopting all of LaRouche's policies from the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. You know, whether it's the One Belt, One Road, or the Transact One Africa, or the Kruk Canal, and the soon-to-come Oasis plan in the Middle East. The Chinese are adopting all these plans. These are the LaRouche. This is the LaRouche program, and so this attack occurred in the Foreign Policy magazine. So this is the kind of signal that they're very upset about what we've done, and they're very upset about what we've done. So now the question is, can we reach out to all of the layers around Trump, all of the top people that work to get Trump elected? Can we reach out to all the people and communicate to them in this open situation what they're going to have to do, how so that there is that basis for Trump to act. Now, as I've always said on the show, it's not who Trump has in his cabinet now. It's what he will do when the crisis hits, and the crisis is coming. The financial crisis is coming. Like Seattle right now, we have a bubble. We have a high-tech bubble. We have a real estate bubble, and that could very well end tomorrow. And most of the people of Seattle will be in worse shape than when Boeing lost all its contracts with the Nixon administration in '69. It could be worse than that, when they had the sign, will the last person leaving Seattle please turn off the lights. That's where we could be very soon. This whole tech bubble here in Seattle, it could go tomorrow. And so could the real estate bubble. This financial system can't be sustained. We need. You cannot continue to maintain a too big to fail, too big to jail system of continuous bailouts and maybe bail-ins later on. You cannot continue to maintain that system. So that's where we are, and so our job is to make sure that option is available, the option of LaRouche's 4 laws, and that's the only way that President Trump is going to fulfill the mandate for which he was elected. So, going back to the issue of the American system, a lot of people, including people in our movement, have created a conception of an American system, and this conception. We have counterposed this to the British system. But in reality, the system that Hamilton really was for was centered around the development of the manufacturers. Is how do you create the economic basis for the development of the society, for the development of the cognitive powers of the population through the development of manufacturers. And for Hamilton, it was not a question of a nation. It was a question that could be used anywhere. This was applied to the United States, but it's not. The principle is not a nation. We are now entering a period where China has the vision, a civilizational vision of developing the world, of developing China and developing the world, and creating a world that people can be pulled out of poverty. And so they have all these projects that they picked up from the LaRouche movement on a global scale. And the process of building these things and creating the networks and creating the trade and creating all of this requires that there be a functioning, efficient relationship between the countries, all the countries of the world, in terms of trade and development. And in that context, the idea of a nation is not the same. Is not the same anymore. The idea of a nation, as developed in the United States, was the nation in defense of the British Empire, and then we became, to a large degree, the continuation of the British Empire. But it's always been a question of defending the nation against the British Empire. Why do you? But when you enter a world where all these nations are developing together, You have a different system. You have a system not an administrative system. You have a system of mutual development. So then, therefore, the integration of of the division of labor between all these countries becomes the driving factor in relationships. And so we're going through a fundamental planetary change in which at this moment the Chinese and the Russians, but especially the Chinese, with the leadership of Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, are leading the world into this profound planetary change. And many are going to look at that as an imperial system, but it's not. It's not like the British Empire. It's not like the Roman Empire or anything like that. It's a very different system that is actually coherent with Alexander Hamilton. It's coherent with the founding principles of our nation, but it's not a nation per se. It's a global civilization, but it's not a homogeneous civilization. It's a global civilization with many cultural components, which however, have different systems. Each one of these nations will have a different system based on their culture. Like you can't have a Chinese system in the United States. You cannot have a system of government like they have in China and the United States. But you probably couldn't have a system of government like you have in the United States and China. So you have this kind of world that we're coming into, this global civilization. And the question is, are we going to be able to have that or not? Are we going to be wiped out in a nuclear war?